Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is day 106, June the 18th, 2017. And it is Father's Day, so if you're a father, happy Father's Day. Or if you have a father out there, hopefully you stopped by and said hi today. Alrighty, let's see here. A couple things going on because the last 2 days or so I did other things. So today we do have a little bit of news that's more related to TowerGate that I want to touch on. Something that popped up I saw a day or two ago that's pretty cool is I've just learned that Trey Gowdy is going to become the head of the House Permanent Select Committee. Now this is really important. Now he's still going to become the chairperson of the Oversight Committee, which is really important because that's the committee where we're probably going to get a lot of people testifying regarding surveillance issues, especially because Trey Gowdy is now heading that committee. And remember, Nunes is still on that committee as well. But anyway, the Permanent Select Committee, the head guy of the Permanent Select Committee in the House, he is the person who probably has the closest relationship with the intelligence community, because it's this select committee that's kind of oversees the intelligence community in the House side. On the Senate side, you have the Gang of Eight. So now Trey Gowdy is going to be not only the head of the Oversight Committee, which is dealing with a lot of the surveillance issues and things like that, he's now going to be the head of the Permanent Select Committee, and that means that he'll be the main guy, the main Republican in the House, along with the Speaker, who are getting these intelligence briefings and who has a lot of oversight over these intelligence communities. And of course we know that in his most recent interview, his last two interviews I've seen him, he has brought up this issue, and in the most recent interview I just watched, he said that he wants to know who has been accessing private citizens' information and who has the ability to unmask them. He says he will not reauthorize the surveillance program until these questions are answered. He also wants to know who made unmasking requests, and he wants to know what the evidence, the evidentiary basis was for those requests. He also made in a comment in that same interview, he said he knows for a fact that someone requested intelligence and unmasking in the last day of the Obama administration, and he has a lot of questions about exactly why that would be. So yeah, I know right now it's kind of frustrating watching the hearings on Trump collusion, even though it's all been pretty much blown away, and now they're getting ready to go on summer break, and then they'll be coming back. So I expect that when they come back in the fall, although there will be other actual issues on the agenda, I do think that because they are going to be supposedly reauthorizing the FISA court, Trey Gowdy and various other people are saying that they're not going to do that until they get to the bottom of a lot of this surveillance that was going on. So I think we're just going to have to be patient throughout the summer, and I don't think that much will happen until the fall when they come back. But what will happen during the summer, I think, is that a lot of these guys will go back to their districts, and I think they're going to get an earful on the Republican side for the fact that they haven't been defending the president very much, and the fact that they're letting the Democrats have way too much playroom as far as these hearings and stuff. I think a lot of people are very unhappy about the special prosecutor. So I think a lot of these Republicans are going to get an earful. And remember, when they come back in the fall after the summer break, they'll be staring straight down the 2018 elections, because as soon as they come back, as soon as the first of the year comes in, which is 3 months later, that's when a lot of the 2018 campaigns begin. So a lot of these guys, when they come back in the fall, will be thinking about re-election. They'll be thinking about 2018, and I think that a lot of voters that they're going to be hearing from during the summer are going to be letting them know that they want to see them show some backbone. So I think we're turning the corner on a lot of this stuff. We still have the Mueller thing out there, and hopefully that issue will be resolved shortly. I'm not sure if that investigation is going to continue. There's things that Jeff Sessions can do that he should do. I think he should fire Mueller, but if he doesn't fire Mueller, he should reassert himself back as fully as the Attorney General. I think he should at least ways narrow the scope of the investigation. He should bring it to a conclusion as quickly as possible, if not just go ahead and fire Mueller for conflict of interest. But I think that there's a lot of steam that has been taken out of the sails of that particular line of inquiry, and I think that we will get back to more of the surveillance issues and a lot of these other things that have been going on. I think that we are going to hear from Loretta Lynch. I think there's enough people. In fact, that was the next thing I was going to talk about. It appears we have a lot of GOP leaders now since Comey's testimony, since he talked about, number one, in the open hearings, he talked about the fact that Loretta Lynch tried to get him to change the way he characterized his investigation of the Clinton email scandal. But the closed session, which happened afterwards, which we learned about a week later, is that he talks about the fact that he presented Lynch with a memo of two high-ranking Democrats discussing the fact that she had already put the kibosh on any investigation that might prosecute or indict Hillary Clinton. And this was revealed in a closed session. And since then, you now have GOP leaders and some Democrats who want Loretta Lynch to testify on the revelations made by Comey and the possible obstruction. We have Senator John Cornyn. We have Lindsey Graham, believe it or not. We have Chuck Grassley. We have the RNC chairman. We have a joint statement issued by the chairman and the RNC about how they believe that Loretta Lynch needs to come and explain herself. Ted Cruz. Also, even Democrat Diane Turn In Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein has also stated that they need to get more information about exactly what happened during that investigation and what Loretta Lynch may have done to obstruct justice. And even Schumer and Little Dick Durbin, two other Democrats, have even said, yeah, they're probably going to have to look into that. So it appears that we may be hearing from Loretta Lynch sooner than later, but eventually they will get around to her, I am sure. But the main thing is that I think that we're turning the corner on some of this garbage that we've been putting up with, and at some point, I think, and I don't think it will be from Mueller, because I think he's playing for the other team, but I do think that we are going to have certain members of the House and Senate on the Republican side, maybe even a couple Democrats, who are eventually going to get into this issue. And we still have Dennis Montgomery's criminal court case, which is happening in civil court, actually, in Washington, regarding the 47 hard drives that prove all the illegal surveillance that was going on. So I think that these issues are going to take front and center stage later in the summer, early fall, when Congress comes back. So it's going to be kind of a slow summer, I guess, unless other things pop up. But it's going to be kind of a grinding it out during the summer. But I think that a lot of these issues will have to be addressed because, again, they are going to have to reauthorize the FISA Act, and a lot of these guys are already on record saying they will not reauthorize the FISA Act until they get to the bottom of what was going on with all this surveillance. And so that's what I look to happen. Now, also, it's kind of funny. Trump did a tweet the other day where he tweeted out about this Rasmussen poll, which puts him at about 50%. And there's quite a few different polls out there. I don't pay much attention to polls. I know most of you don't either, especially when we know how wrong they can be. But it's pretty interesting. CNN is out touting this poll, trying to do damage to Donald Trump, which has him at 41%. That was the lowest poll they could find, 41%. And which means he's not a whole lot less unpopular than Obama was, or certainly Bush when he left office. And that he is not being, this just shows you that if the lowest number they can find is 41 and we have Rasmussen putting him at 50, that's pretty damn good considering the abuse he's been suffering, considering that almost all the media is ganged up on him, considering that his own party has not even defended him. I mean, for him to be holding anywhere near 50% right now tells you that a lot of people out there in the country, like yourself watching this video, and like many other people we know, are just simply not paying attention to any of the nonsense propaganda that is going on. We're paying attention to the real things that Donald Trump is doing. And the real things that he is doing is he's creating a hell of a lot of jobs. He's getting rid of a lot of regulations. He had a very successful foreign policy trip. He has not taken us any deeper into any of these wars. I think he would like to extract us from some of these wars, but there are U.S. interests involved, and I think that he would be facing a very difficult pushback if he were just to pull completely out of Syria or not to support the Saudis or in Yemen or whatever. I think these are tough issues to deal with, and as a president, you have to be careful because again, you can see what the deep state and the media can do to you. And so I think Trump is doing the best he can in those situations, but he certainly is not opening up any new fronts. And I think he is trying to maintain the foreign policy that he talked about without completely retreating from the world. I think he's doing a very good job in foreign policy, and I think he's really done far better than Obama did in foreign policy, and he's brand new at this. So, you give Trump a couple of years to get his feet on this thing. He'll do much better even, I think, in the future in foreign policy dealings, and especially when he can get the Russian thing off his back so that he can actually work in a cooperation with Russia, and then you might actually see the Syrian situation resolve itself. Some of these other situations really have a lot more to do with the EU and what's going on there, talking about Europe and the things there. We don't have much to say about that. That's totally the EU. But anyway, it is surprising. I was surprised, when I looked at some of those polls. I saw the Rasmussen poll, 50%. I saw the poll that CNN was citing, the 41, but there was a couple other polls that have him in 46, 47. The LA poll, that was a real accurate poll during the election, they have him around 46, 47. So, if you're taking the abuse that he's taken and you're still holding somewhere between 45 and 50%, for all the energy that the Democrats have expended trying to take him down, it doesn't appear that people are paying too much attention to them. And again, this is kind of goes back to the video I talked about yesterday. What the Democrats should be doing is focusing on their own problems. They have a split in their own party. They have the progressives now trying to start a third party, a new party. They're in deep trouble. They have no real national candidate that they can look to in 2020, and I think they fooled themselves into believing if they can beat up on Donald Trump bad enough that they could maybe win back the Congress in 2018, and then they would have the power to do various other things. But I think that they're completely delusional. I just don't see it happening. We've had 3 special elections, and Republicans have won them all. There's a special election coming up in Georgia, 6th District, Newt Gingrich's old seat. That election is coming up here in a couple of weeks, and in August, I believe. And I believe they'll hold on to that seat as well. Even though the Democrats are pouring a ton of money into that race, I think they're still going to lose. So, I just don't see where any of this is paying off for the Democratic side of the ticket. And I guess, logic and common sense, unless these people live in a complete bubble, you would think that there would be somebody in the leadership at the DNC or even the big donors who would call these people in and say, look, man, I don't know what you guys are doing or what you're thinking about. You're spending an awful lot of time, throwing punches at Trump, but you're not connecting. He's still doing pretty good. His base still supports him. That party still controls both houses of Congress, and they have the White House. Now they probably have the swing vote on the court, and he'll probably nominate at least one more Supreme Court judge, maybe 2. Things are not looking good for the Democrat side of the aisle. I don't think that your philosophy, I don't think that your strategy is working, and that you may want to try something different, like actually come up with some real policy positions that you can challenge Trump on. They don't really challenge him on policy. And, the 2 biggest issues for most Democrats, and especially progressives, when you talk to them, is number 1, the environment, and number 2, single payer. But you can watch speeches of even Nancy Pelosi, of even Dianne Feinstein. You can watch speeches where when they are talking in these town halls to their own Democratic progressive supporters, they are telling their supporters that these things aren't doable. Hillary Clinton told Bernie Sanders during their primary that single payer wasn't doable. For some reason, though, the progressive left and a lot of the Democrats, a lot of the very liberal Democrats, they still believe that these are the issues that they need to go run on to win. And if you believe that you're going to win elections based on putting the environment as your top issue in single payer, or one of the 2 at the top of the list, those being, and most Americans across the heartland of the country don't give a flying flip about these issues, man. They care about jobs. They care about having low energy prices. They care about security. They care about various other things. But you're not going to win national elections on these issues. And it just seems to me that the Democrats are way off track. Their attacks on Trump, clearly by the recent polls, show that it's not much is sticking. Maybe a few independents are wobbling in the knees, but for the most part, Trump's doing a very good job, particularly as bad as he's being assaulted, to stay where he's at in that 45 to 50% range. And we still don't have the Democratic alternative, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to be very difficult for the Democrats because they have a split party. I don't really know, how you solve the problem. Like I said, the big problem that they have is that the media, the left-wing media, has been pushing now for quite some time this very hardcore progressive agenda. They have sucked in all these liberals and all these progressives to believe that they can actually have this kind of an agenda. At the same time, it's done great damage to the corporate Democrat Party because they realize that this agenda that the left media is pushing and that a lot of these Democrats have swallowed and bought into, this is an agenda that will not win you national elections in the Electoral College. And so, we just have to get past this Mueller investigation. And like I said, I hope that Sessions does the right thing, which is either to can him or to reassume full control of the Attorney General position and narrow the scope of his investigation. Hey, and if you want to, hire a special investigator, bring in a special prosecutor to investigate Mueller, because clearly there are leaks coming out of his little posse there. And of course, I think for sure something that should have already happened, but I think will be happening as we come into the fall, is that we need to get on offense. We need to start dragging what's her name, Susan Rice, and Samantha Power, and Lynch, and we need to bring Ben Rhodes, and we need to bring Comey back, and we need to bring Clapper back, and we need to bring Brennan back, and we need to talk to these people and find out about this surveillance that they were doing. So I do believe that the tide is turning, that the tables are turning, that we're heading in the right direction, and that we just have to persevere and be patient through the summer, and I think we'll begin to start seeing things turn around a little bit. So anyway, that's my thoughts on TowerGate today, day 106, June 18th, 2017. You guys have a good night. Bye.